Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel, Canada Immigration. We hope you're doing great. In this video, we will talk about Canada immigration big changes. On November 8, 2024, Canada introduced significant updates to its immigration and labor policies that will have a profound impact on international students, workers, and potential immigrants. The Student Direct Stream and Nigeria Student Express programs have now closed, while a notable 20% increase in wages for temporary foreign workers signals a shift in Canada's approach to labor needs. Alongside these changes, the country has announced plans to reduce immigration targets by 20% in 2025, focusing on cutting low-skilled worker admissions. In a bid to support its growing provincial programs, a temporary public policy will facilitate work permits for prospective provincial nominee program candidates. These sweeping changes mark a pivotal moment in Canada's immigration landscape, as the nation re-evaluates its priorities in the face of evolving economic demands and workforce dynamics. If you are interested in this topic, pay attention and watch the video through to the end to get all the information. Please hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to push the notification bell for an upcoming video. So, without any further delay, let's jump into the video. New International Student Program Regulations taking effect. Canada's diverse and inclusive society, high-quality educational institutions, and potential opportunities to work or immigrate after graduation have made Canada a leading destination for students from around the world. The international student program must be sustainable, and students must be protected from abuse within the system. Over the past year, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada have taken significant steps to ensure the sustainability of the international student program by rooting out fraud and protecting students from bad actors and financial vulnerability. As announced in our 2025 to 2027 Immigration Levels Plan, Canada's temporary resident population will decrease over the next few years to align with our long-term economic goals and strengthen the integrity and quality of our temporary resident programs. Today, the Honourable Mark Miller, Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship, confirmed that new regulations impacting the international student program have now taken effect, including the change to the number of hours international students may work off-campus that was proposed earlier this year. With this change, eligible students can now work up to 24 hours per week off-campus while their classes are in session. Moving forward, international students must apply and be approved for a new study permit before changing learning institutions. This change is in line with the important work we have been doing to strengthen the integrity of the international student program. Designated learning institutions play an important role in protecting the student program against misuse. Since 2015, IRCC has been working with DLIs to strengthen student compliance reporting. There will now be consequences for DLIs that fail to submit compliance reports or verify acceptance letters. With this change, a DLI could be suspended from welcoming new international students for up to a year for failing to provide the required information. These improvements will provide greater oversight while supporting international students and safeguarding their academic experiences in Canada. To work off-campus without a work permit, international students must be studying full-time in a post-secondary academic, vocational, or professional training program, or a vocational training program at the secondary level offered in Quebec, that lasts at least 6 months and leads to a degree, diploma, or certificate. International students who are eligible to work off-campus may work full-time during breaks in their academic calendar, such as the summer break between school years or the winter break between semesters. Twice a year, designated learning institutions are expected to submit a report to IRCC that indicates whether each study permit holder associated with their school has remained enrolled. Students who are no longer enrolled can be investigated and face enforcement action, as they may be breaking their study permit conditions. Designated learning institutions in Quebec have not, to date, participated in student compliance reporting. It will take Quebec and IRCC some time to set up this reporting system for Quebec DLIs. As such, Quebec DLIs have a grace period before they are required to comply with the compliance reporting requirement. The new letter of acceptance verification process has been a success. Since its launch on December 1, 2023, through October 6, 2024, IRCC has received almost 529,000 LOAs for verification, confirmed nearly 492,000 LOAs as valid directly with designated learning institutions, identified more than 17,000 LOAs that either didn't match any LOA issued by a DLI or that the DLI had already been cancelled before the individual applied for a study permit. Canada, Student Direct Stream and Nigeria Student Express programs closed. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada closes the Student Direct Stream and Nigeria Student Express programs. What this means for future applicants. On November 8, 2024, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada announced the closure of two key programs designed to expedite the study permit application process, the Student Direct Stream and the Nigeria Student Express. These programs, which were introduced to streamline the application process for students from select countries, including China, India, and the Philippines, will no longer accept new applications after the specified deadline. A closer look at the Student Direct Stream and Nigeria Student Express programs. The SDS was launched in 2018 by the IRCC to expedite the processing of study permits for students from countries such as China, India, the Philippines, and several other select nations. The program was designed to help Canadian educational institutions attract talented international students by offering faster processing times for eligible applicants. Similarly, the NSE was introduced to provide a similar benefit for students applying from Nigeria, a country with a growing number of students interested in studying in Canada. These programs helped reduce the wait time for many students, allowing them to plan their travel and academic schedules with more certainty. What does the closure mean for students who were planning to apply? The closure of the SDS and NSE programs will impact students who had intended to use these faster tracks to study in Canada. As of November 8, 2024, study permit applications submitted before 1400 hours, local time, will still be processed under the SDS and NSE systems. This means that students who submit their applications before this time will benefit from the faster processing times that these programs offer. However, for all applications submitted on or after this deadline, processing will revert to the regular study permit application process. The regular process typically takes longer, and students may experience delays as their applications are assessed based on the standard timelines. The reason behind the closure: ensuring fairness and strengthening program integrity. The decision to close these programs stems from IRCC's aim to create a more equitable and transparent application process for all international students. According to the IRCC, the closure of the SDS and NSE programs will allow them to ensure that all applicants, regardless of nationality, have equal access to the study permit application system. By ending these expedited streams, the Canadian government is working to strengthen the integrity of its international student programs and prevent any potential favoritism or disparity in the processing of applications. The goal is to ensure that all students, whether they come from countries that were previously part of these fast-track systems or from countries without such benefits, have the same opportunities and expectations in the application process. Impact on processing times for international students. The closure of the SDS and NSE programs means that students who were once eligible for expedited processing will now be subject to the regular study permit application timeline. This could significantly increase the time it takes for study permits to be approved, potentially leading to delays in students' plans to travel to Canada and begin their studies. Processing times for study permits vary depending on the applicant's country of residence and the volume of applications being processed at the time. For students from countries that previously benefited from SDS and NSE, it's important to understand that they may now experience processing delays that could range from several weeks to months. What can students do to prepare for the changes? Students who were planning to apply through the SDS or NSE programs must now adjust their expectations. It's essential for prospective students to submit their applications well in advance of their intended start date to accommodate the longer processing times. Students who previously planned to submit their applications under the faster track may also need to make alternative arrangements for their visa interviews or any additional documentation required for the regular study permit process. Staying informed about the changes and making adjustments accordingly will help students avoid unnecessary delays in their plans. The future of Canada's international student programs. While the closure of the SDS and NSE programs may seem like a setback for some international students, it reflects Canada's ongoing commitment to fair and transparent immigration policies. The Canadian government continues to prioritize the recruitment of international talent and the growth of its educational institutions. The removal of expedited streams does not mean that Canada is closing its doors to international students. Rather, it is an effort to ensure that all students are treated equally and that the application process remains consistent and reliable across the board. Prospective students should continue to monitor any further updates from the IRCC and explore other avenues to ensure their successful admission to Canadian institutions. Canada hikes temporary worker wages by 20%, effective 8 November. The Canadian government has announced a significant update to the Labour Market Impact Assessment Program, effective November 8, 2024. This update will see a 20% increase in wage thresholds, marking an important step towards fairer compensation for foreign workers and encouraging the hiring of skilled professionals across Canada. Under the LOMIA program, employers are required to meet certain wage thresholds to hire temporary foreign workers. These thresholds are used to classify jobs into high-wage and low-wage streams, with the high-wage stream generally attracting higher-skilled workers and offering better pay. With this new update, the wage thresholds will increase by 20%, raising the wage expectations for all temporary foreign workers entering Canada. This change will have a direct impact on the compensation packages offered by employers, making it more lucrative for foreign workers, particularly those from countries like India, to maximize their earning potential while gaining international work experience. Updated wage thresholds for each province and territory. The updated wage thresholds will vary by province and territory, reflecting regional differences in labor markets. Each region will have specific wage requirements for both high-wage and low-wage streams, with an increase of 20% applied to both categories. Employers will need to adjust their wage offerings to ensure compliance with these new benchmarks, which may require budget revisions and strategic changes to hiring practices. The exact thresholds for each province and territory can be found in the detailed table, which is essential for employers to understand the specific requirements in their region. Impact on foreign workers and employers. This wage increase will significantly impact both employers and temporary foreign workers in Canada. For employers, the new wage thresholds will likely require a shift in budget allocations. Many sectors in Canada, such as hospitality, construction, and trade, are in desperate need of skilled foreign workers. To attract the necessary talent, employers will have to offer higher wages, making Canada a more competitive destination for skilled professionals. For foreign workers, this change means higher earning potential and a better standard of living while working in Canada. The wage increase ensures that workers are compensated fairly for their skills and efforts, potentially making it easier for them to settle in Canada long-term. Additionally, foreign workers may now have a clearer path to applying for Canadian permanent residency, given the improved wages and employment opportunities available in key industries. Overall, the wage threshold increase under the Temporary Foreign Worker Program is a progressive move that will benefit both workers and employers. It will contribute to Canada's goal of maintaining a diverse and inclusive labour market while strengthening its position as a leading destination for global talent. Employers and foreign workers alike will need to stay informed about these changes to fully take advantage of the new opportunities. Canada to cut immigration by 20% in 2025, low-skilled workers not welcomed. Canada is stepping back from its previously welcoming immigration stance, a shift that could significantly impact low-skilled Indian workers currently in the country. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's administration now intends to scale back the number of new arrivals as public sentiment on immigration wanes. 20% drop in immigration. In the latest immigration strategy outlined by Immigration Minister Mark Miller on Thursday, Canada will admit approximately 395,000 permanent residents in 2025, marking a drop of nearly 20% from the 485,000 expected this year. The plan also sets a target for temporary immigrants, including international students and foreign workers. Their numbers are expected to drop to about 446,000 in 2025 and 2026, down from roughly 800,000 this year. By 2027, Canada will accept just 17,400 new non-permanent residents. These adjustments will lead to a projected population decline of 0.2% in the next 2 years, shifting from the robust growth of 3% observed in the second quarter of this year. If the government meets its goals, it would mark the first population shrinkage in Canada since the 1950s. At a news conference, Trudeau referred to the plan as a pause on population growth, intended to give various levels of government time to improve healthcare, housing, and social services to accommodate future populations. Over the past decade, Indian immigration to Canada has surged by 326%, with student enrollments skyrocketing by 5,800%. In 2023, the number of Indian immigrants reached 139,715, according to the National Foundation for American Policy. Indian students now make up a large share of the international student body in Canada, with enrollments rising from 2,181 in 2000 to 128,928 in 2021. Maharaja said that these trends reflect a growing dependence on Indian immigrants, particularly in sectors requiring skilled labor. While temporary workers can still apply for permanent residency, the emphasis on highly skilled applicants means that those in lower skilled jobs may struggle. Many Indians have come to Canada seeking better opportunities, but this new policy could jeopardize their dreams. The high demand for skilled labor in Canada has attracted many Indians, with quite a few pursuing higher education in Canadian institutions. However, the increasing cap on student permits could hinder future enrollments, limiting opportunities for Indian students who contribute to Canada's economy and cultural diversity. What led to this decision? An influx of newcomers aided Canada's post-pandemic recovery. But it also exacerbated housing shortages and increased unemployment rates in the country. According to reports, the rapid immigration growth has strained public services and raised concerns about housing affordability. Trudeau acknowledged the challenges, saying, "We didn't get that balance quite right. Our immigration system has always been responsible, but we are acting today because of the tumultuous times as we emerged from the pandemic." Immigration Minister Mark has expressed confidence that this reduction would not adversely impact the economy, at least not in the short term. Whatever you see in the next 3 years with neutral population growth is counteracted by the quite large growth that we've seen in the last 3 years, he said. Economists have pointed out potential benefits from the changes, suggesting they might relieve pressure on housing and the labor market. Rapid growth in population in recent years has resulted in negative growth in per capita income while pushing up the cost of living, said Robert Kovchich, a senior economist at the Bank of Montreal. He believes that reducing immigration intake could help mitigate these issues. Slower population growth may ease the strain on housing and improve living standards for Canadians. Concerns of small businesses in Canada. The tightening of immigration has left many small business owners feeling anxious. Dan Kelly, president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, said the rush to make significant changes to Canada's permanent immigration levels and the temporary foreign worker program has many small business owners' heads spinning. While it is entirely appropriate to adjust immigration levels based on labor market needs, any shifts carry considerable implications for employers and workers, Kelly said. The CFIB is already receiving panic calls from small business owners, while many are expressing regret over losing valued foreign workers whose visas are nearing expiration. Some others are voicing concern over the prevailing wage requirements for skilled temporary workers that do not reflect the reality of small businesses. It would mean that small firms will struggle to survive. Earlier, decisions to reduce access to low-skilled TFWs will also have a major impact on the ability of small firms to build the teams they need to put their products or services to market. A restaurant owner who can't find a cook will struggle to keep their business afloat, Kelly warned. Many small businesses rely on foreign workers to fill crucial roles, and the sudden reduction in immigration levels will create gaps that are hard to fill. However, Maharaja is of the view that a reduction in immigrants might correct imbalances that have made the job market less accessible to Canadians. There will be challenges for small businesses, such as restaurants, due to reduced immigration, he said. However, many have become reliant on desperate workers to keep wages low, which has resulted in shutting Canadian workers, including the young and retired, out of the job market. Public sentiment on immigration. A recent survey by the Environics Institute found that 60% of Canadians believe there is too much immigration in the country. This marks the highest opposition level in 25 years. Concerns center on housing shortages and economic pressures, prompting Trudeau's government to implement new targets for immigration. The survey results indicate a growing dissatisfaction with the government's handling of immigration, especially in light of the rising cost of living. Dapo Bankol, an advocate for immigrant life education, said, "The major challenge is not just about numbers but how well the country can integrate new arrivals into the economy without creating disruptions." Bankol stressed that Canada may no longer need as many immigrant professionals, especially as many highly skilled immigrants find themselves in roles far below their qualifications. "There is a build-up of white-collar professionals who have ended up in blue-collar jobs," he said. This mismatch creates a challenging environment for immigrants and Canadian workers who are increasingly competing for the same positions. Temporary public policy to facilitate work permits for prospective provincial nominee program candidates. Background: the department is focused on recalibrating the temporary resident to permanent resident ratio in Canada, including by supporting provinces and territories and transitioning eligible temporary residents via their provincial nominee programs. Within the existing group of temporary residents in Canada, a plethora of strong provincial nominee program candidates can be found. In their time as temporary residents, these workers have the opportunity to demonstrate their ability to establish themselves economically and develop community roots. To reinforce the department's priority of transitioning a greater portion of current temporary residents to permanent residency, the department proposes to facilitate access to open work permits to this population via a time-limited public policy. This population will be supported by their province or territory of residence as provincial nominee program candidates and will be issued letters to this effect by their respective province or territory. Skilled workers already filling critical labor market needs in Canada will be retained and provided a more certain pathway to permanent residence. Public policy considerations. This public policy, under Section 25.2 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, the Act, will allow eligible foreign nationals who hold an employment offer, a valid work permit, or held a valid work permit that has expired as of May 7 and a support letter from the province or territory they reside in, outlining their placement in an expression of interest pool or other application inventory process following an initial assessment of the candidate by the province/territory, to be issued an open work permit. Establish that there are sufficient public policy considerations that justify the granting, by Section 25.2 of the Act, exemptions from the requirements of the regulations listed below to foreign nationals who meet the conditions set out below. Conditions, eligibility requirements. Based on public policy considerations, delegated officers may grant to a foreign national an exemption from the requirements of the regulations identified below if the foreign national meets the following conditions. The foreign national holds a valid work permit, has submitted an application for a new work permit under Section 200 of the regulations, and has provided, with the application referred to in B, a support letter, issued by the provincial or territorial authority of the jurisdiction in which the foreign national resides, and that authority has signed a letter of intent with IRCC setting out its role in supporting facilitation under this public policy, and outlining that the foreign national has been screened by the said provincial or territorial authority and has been placed in an expression of interest pool, or is in the provincial or territorial authority's application inventory process for determining eligibility, under the provincial nominee program, and a letter of employment from the foreign national's current employer, or the foreign national held a valid work permit on May 7, 2024, but that permit has since expired, has applied for a new work permit under Section 200 of the regulations and an extension of their authorization to remain in Canada as a temporary resident under Section 181 of the regulations, or restoration of their temporary resident status under Section 182 of the regulations, and has provided, with the application referred to in B, a support letter, issued by the provincial or territorial authority of the jurisdiction in which the foreign national resides, and that authority has signed a letter of intent with IRCC setting out its role in supporting facilitation under this public policy, and outlining that the foreign national has been screened by the said provincial or territorial authority and has been placed in an expression of interest pool, or is in the provincial or territorial authority's application inventory process for determining eligibility, under the provincial nominee program, and a letter of employment from the foreign national's current employer, or the foreign national was authorized to work under paragraph 186, U, of the regulations on May 7, 2024, and their work permit extension application remains pending or was approved, has applied for a new work permit under Section 200 of the regulations and an extension of their authorization to remain in Canada as a temporary resident under Section 181 of the regulations, and has provided, with the application referred to in B, a support letter, issued by the provincial or territorial authority of the jurisdiction in which the foreign national resides, and that authority has signed a letter of intent with IRCC setting out its role in supporting facilitation under this public policy, and outlining that the foreign national has been screened by the said provincial or territorial authority and has been placed in an expression of interest pool, or is in the provincial or territorial authority's application inventory process for determining eligibility, under the provincial nominee program, and a letter of employment from the foreign national's current employer, provisions of the regulations for which an exemption may be granted. For foreign nationals who meet the conditions listed in 1 and 3, paragraph 201C of the regulations, the eligibility requirements that a foreign national must meet to be issued a work permit under existing pathways. For foreign nationals who meet the conditions listed in 2, the requirement in Section 182 is for a visitor, worker, or student to apply for restoration within 90 days after losing temporary resident status. The requirement in Section 182, for a visitor, worker, or student to have complied with any other conditions imposed. Paragraph 201C of the regulations, the eligibility requirements that a foreign national must meet to be issued a work permit under existing pathways. Paragraph 203E, the requirement that a work permit not be issued to a foreign national who has engaged in unauthorized work or study in Canada or has failed to comply with the conditions of a previous permit or authorization. Other admissibility and selection criteria. Foreign nationals eligible under this public policy are subject to all other legislative eligibility and admissibility requirements not exempted under this, or another, public policy. Effective date and expiration. This public policy comes into effect on the date it is signed and applies to applications received on or after the coming into effect and to applications pending under the temporary public policy to facilitate work permits for foreign nationals in provincial and territorial expression of interest pools under the provincial nominee program signed on June 26, 2024. On coming into effect, this public policy revokes and replaces the temporary public policy to facilitate work permits for foreign nationals in provincial and territorial expression of interest pools under the provincial nominee program signed on June 26, 2024. This public policy will expire on December 31, 2024, and may be revoked at any time, without prior notice. As Canada recalibrates its immigration and labour policies, the new regulations will shape the future of both international students and temporary workers. With a focus on adjusting immigration targets and fostering labour market integration, these changes underscore Canada's commitment to refining its approach to migration in the coming years. Stakeholders, from students to employers, will need to stay informed as these policies unfold, ensuring they navigate this evolving landscape effectively. That is all for today. In this video, what are your thoughts on this? Please let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching the entire video. Hopefully, the information is useful to you. See you later, in the next video. Till then, take care.